You know, maybe it's not time to press the red panic button on Baylor basketball, except for the fact that it is.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Baylor. I am your resident optimist from Sports Illustrated's Inside the Bears, and that is Brandon McKinnon from Our Daily Bears. Thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. Brandon, yes, the rumors are true. I'm wearing a Pi-Fi shirt, and I know it's not a Baylor shirt, and I am in the wrong for doing so. Also, I'm not a Pi-Fi. So basically, wearing this shirt is a lie to God and everybody and slaps all of our listeners in the face, and I am sorry.
I almost didn't want to continue with the podcast because I felt you were supporting organizations outside of Baylor University.
Yep. Which you wouldn't want to do that. And I'm doing that. I'm openly doing that on today's podcast. I also want to let you know, I get it. I'm not always the happiest camper in the Baylor camp. I try to be critical, reasonably critical. Here's where I am pressing the red button, Brandon. Let me give you a little stat here. Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer, Keontae George, Jalen Bridges, Flo Thamba, and Dale Bonner. What do those 6 human beings have in common?
They are no longer members of the Baylor men's basketball team.
See, that is true. That is true what you've just said here. What is also true is they make up the top 6 Baylor players in average minutes per game last season.
Okay.
So if you're not going to press the red panic button when your top 6 minutes per game players have left the program, I don't think you're ever going to for those that are like, I'm not going to press the panic button, do a little self-reflection here. Look in the mirror and like, what kind of atomic bomb would it take for you to press the red panic button? Because Brandon, this is not good.
Yeah, dude. So I agree. And I think
Do you guys hear that? Positive Brandon McKinnon, who only writes good stuff about the Baylor Bears, your fighting Baylor Bears, agrees. Red panic button.
Well, and so, I mean, I have been in the Our Daily Bears Slack when we're just chatting internally. I've definitely been the negative guy this offseason.
Rubbing off on you.
We've seen,
rubbing off on you. I'm okay.
Or reality is just setting in. I'm not sure which of the two. Maybe you're rubbing off on me. Maybe reality setting in. Maybe it's a combination, no one knows. But it's concerning when you have 6 big departures and then 3 additional departures in Jordan Turner, Zach Loveday, and Jake Youngkin. Not that those guys played big minutes, but those are 9 guys who were on your roster that are no longer on your roster.
And
you've you've only brought 1 new person in the transfer portal, and then you're 2 freshmen. So we're still seeing a gap of like 6 guys just from a bodies and roster standpoint. And where is it going to come from? Is D'Antoine, Langston, Miro, Jacoby, and Josh, are they all going to play 40 minutes? Is that what's going to happen? Or sorry, that's hyperbolic. I've been watching the NBA playoffs. They play 48. In college, you only play 40. Are they all going to play 36 minutes? Is that just going to be the case? Are we just going to run these guys out? It's concerning, and I'm definitely hitting the panic button.
So,
unless Jalen comes back, but that's still only 1 more guy, and that would be a huge guy to get back. But I think it's very likely he's on an NBA roster next year. I think it is as likely he is on an NBA roster next year as it is he's on a Baylor roster. It's 50-50 to me.
I agree 100%. And he has been toying with this for weeks now. I got a text 2 weeks ago from a source that was not reliable, so I didn't put anything out about it, that he was in Houston doing some training with some scouts. And I was like, didn't see that coming. Because
you don't even need to have that text. You just follow him on Instagram. He's reposting that he's working out in Houston. That's something that I raised as soon as the season ended. I was like, I hit up a bunch of my buddies and I was like, I don't think I'm all for guys not playing class. As a matter of fact, I advocate for that. But it doesn't seem like Jalen Bridges is in class right now.
No, I don't really think he was. He's in some online work, online NBA, man. the whole Jalen Bridges deal, I said it 2 weeks ago. I've got to stick by my word here. I said I will only press the red button if Jalen Bridges leaves. And then Jalen Bridges left. Can he come back?
Well,
yes.
He's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Do I think he'll come back? I'm leaning no.
He's like ripping a cig on the back porch, contemplating it.
Right. Except don't want to say
old
Jalen
school
Bridges.
Metaphor. Jalen Bridges does not smoke cigarettes. It's a metaphor.
Well, I got good news for you, my friend. You know how Baylor's had some not great post play the last couple years? Tesos Camateros, 6'7" center, 240 pounds from high school. I love it. His 247 profile says high school, Greece. City, Greece. Country, you guessed it.
High school.
Greece.
Yeah.
He is a transfer from South Dakota, just as at the time of recording, has now entered the transfer portal. He is a 0-star.
Why are you playing? I thought you were about to say he just signed. I was pulling up my phone to see if anything came in.
Nope. Fret not, Tesos Camateros. He has not signed anywhere. When you pull up 24/7, that's one of the first things that comes up. The portal is very quickly being filled. Hunter Dickinson not coming to Baylor. Max Asmus not coming to Baylor.
That would be
Tyler Perry not coming to Baylor.
Great filmmaker.
So we are to the point now where it's like, all right, who's left in the transfer portal? Sorry. When you have 6 spots to fill and there are barely 6 viable players in the transfer portal to fill them, that's probably not a good thing, Brandon.
That's a little hyperbolic. The portal is still
a
lot of depth and talent. I mean, Bonner was the 75th ranked player in the portal.
I'll give you that. But even if the top 10 and he transferred, by the way, and was benched. Even if the top 10 transfers were still on the board, I still don't want 6 transfers. 7 now with none. So this is red button city.
There's not a ton of time. Like, people forget, it's not like you can just bring in transfers through the summer or whatever. Like, the portal season ends May 11th, so it's 2.5 weeks. It's not like Scott can spend a ton of time in the offseason. Now, what I don't know is how the NCAA letter of the law works with like a preferred walk-on. Like, if somebody stays in the portal, doesn't sign, like, it's unlikely that all of the guys that enter the portal will find a spot. It's impossible statistically.
Right.
And they can go back to their old university, I suppose, if the spot isn't full, but I don't know how that works if somebody doesn't officially transfer and it's like, I've left my team, I now preferred walk-on scholarship stuff. But May 11th is the drop dead deadline of like the portal is closed.
Yeah. And that, my friend, is not a good thing if you are Baylor Bears. And I am Baylor Bears. You are also Baylor Bears.
Yeah.
I'm
being negative, and like a lot of what I wrote on Twitter, because primarily I was doing like interview stuff this season, did skew negative to where I was like, hey, this is not ideal. The defense is not great. What is happening? Like, I am a season ticket holder. I root for the team. Just because I'm concerned doesn't mean I do not like and want the team to succeed. It's quite the opposite. It's because I care so much that I'm like, I don't enjoy only having 9 guys on our roster. That's not ideal to me.
Yeah. We both kind of come from this. We both went to Baylor, so there is the aspect of rooting for Baylor. Thus, we root. Right. As someone who is a journalist, air quotes there, because the show's literally called Locked On Baylor. What do you want me to just not be a Baylor fan? I look at the room around me. I go to Baylor. If I was a true journalist, then I would be more objective than I am. And I feel like I'm pretty objective. But that's like this topic. It's not that I'm excited. It's not that I'm preying on Baylor basketball's downfall, and I don't think you are either. It's just that at some point, it's the law of averages.
Yeah.
A team is either average, above average, or below average. And right now, Baylor basketball has had a colossally below average offseason compared to what we like. Best case scenario: Flagler back, Cryer back, Bonner back, Flo Thamba not back. Sorry, God. And
out of eligibility, not wishing him to leave.
Right. Exactly. You're not. And all of that put together, there is an above average way this offseason could have gone, a very average way, which is maybe where you are if Bridges had stayed. Now law of averages, it has been objectively a below average offseason for Baylor men's basketball, Brandon, but all hope is not lost. Scott Drew exists. There is still stability, culture in this program, and even ESPN still has Baylor as a top 8 seed, as 8 seed or better in the NCAA tournament. And so we're going to flip it and somehow be positive because first, I guess I have to set myself in the mood of positivity, which what better to do that than FanDuel. I actually have lost some money this week on FanDuel. I always tell you guys when I win money, but I've lost a little bit of money this week. It's because the Texas Rangers lost to the Reds the other night. What are we doing here, man? What are we doing losing to the Reds? I bet on some hockey and some NBA as well. Bet on the Memphis Grizzlies against the Lakers. If you like the Lakers, that's communist right there. Can I say that? I don't know if I can say that, but I did. So that's it. I've gone to FanDuel. Maybe I lost a couple dollars, but I won a lot the last couple weeks, and I'm having a whole lot of fun doing it because I got my $1,000 from FanDuel in a no-sweat first bet. You put $1,000 on Aaron Judge to hit a home run. If he hits the home run at plus 300, you win $3,000. If he doesn't hit a home run, you get $1,000 back in bonus bets. That's right, $1,000 when you go to FanDuel.com/locked on. Go to FanDuel.com/locked on. And right now, you could sign up, get $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. It's FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NFL, of the NBA, of me, and of Major League Baseball. All right, Brandon. We've been dour, reasonably dour here. Do you have any good news or generally positive perspective?
The new stadium's going to be cool.
Yes. Will the team win a lot right away in the new stadium?
I'm being sarcastic. So look, man, like to the point you're making before the ad, we want Baylor athletics to be successful. Like as true fans. Like if you were to go back,
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
Like there's the A, fandom aspect. B, I in turn get paid more when Baylor athletics is good. Just want to throw that out there. Like why wouldn't I root for Baylor?
Yeah, like people will listen more when their team is doing well.
Yeah.
But where I was going with this is like if you were to run back, I think throughout the season there were just issues that we saw and then talked about. But if you were to run back any of the pods or any of the different stuff that has been written preseason, we were talking about Baylor unequivocal national champion contender day one. And so I think to your like law of averages discussion, the season finished, I would say, below average. There were points like really high highs and really low lows, but a first weekend exit is not what we expected. No. And then for that to be followed up with what this offseason has been is the primary reason I'm concerned. Turning the page, the reason I think that there are positives, Jaden Nunn is legitimately has a chance to have an NBA ceiling. Yeah. Like he is the type of prototypical two-way guy that Scott Drew has been building around for years. And I think he's going to be awesome. That being said, we need 2 more Jaden Nunns. And so it's like the positive thing is I think Jaden's a great fit from a schematic, like legacy schematic, not what we saw this year where we just switched everything with smaller guards, but like legacy true, this guy can guard 1 to 5. Miro Little absolutely shined in like the high school championship, Geico Nationals, shined in like the World versus USA, feature game, as did Jacoby. So like you have 2 hoopers coming in, and like Miro has the killer instinct. Like you put on tape, like Miro has that. And then like you hope that guys like Langston avoid a freak injury again and have a fully healthy season for the first time at Baylor, because he was a top 25 recruit. Like I know I said it coming into this season, but it's almost like you get an additional top 25 recruit again because Langston was not healthy this year. You didn't see big minutes. So there's reason to be optimistic with how the roster stands, but that's like, I am hoping for the ceiling. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to see more, but that's my blip of optimism. And also I still, right, wrong, or indifferent, I trust Coach Drew to build a roster. I still have questions and concerns about what Coach Drew looks like as a coach without Jerome Tang on the bench. That was a rant. I apologize.
No, because you ended the rant with a strong statement that we can unpack here. We have unpacked before. We'll do it again. I do want to welcome people into the idea of law of averages, by the way, because this is something that I've thought about for now a month in my psychology class. Everything fits in the law of averages. It's like a literal law. Either today was an average day, an above average day, a below average day. You, as a CPA, Greg from Dallas, who's listening, you as a CPA, you're either at above average or below average or an average CPA. Everyone has to fit. Not everyone can be an above average CPA because by rule. But
you are, Greg.
But Greg, you're an average or above average CPA. I'm not going to give you the below average. By rule, I took a shower an hour ago. Was that a below average, an average, or an above average shower? Everything in life fits into a law of averages. And not sometimes, 33, 40% of the time, things have to be below average. If you really want to divvy it out 33, 33, 33, you can do it that way. It's the law. And it's so I just wanted to unpack that law for you because I'm grappling with that every day of my life. It's like, oh, that was a good day. Was it one of the 33% above average days? So I hope that destroys your brain as it's destroyed mine. Brandon, good
news for you, Drake. Jesus came to fulfill the law. You're not defined by the law.
Yes. Every day is above average with Jesus. But it can't be because the law of averages, Brandon. The Jerome Tang conversation pissed a lot of people off very early. They're like, oh, Baylor can win without Jerome Tang. Scott wins without assistance all the time. This one was obviously different. Jerome Tang's was on the bench at Baylor for 20 years and then took his team to his Elite Eight when Baylor got bounced in the first weekend.
That is more my point than what Baylor didn't do.
Yeah.
My point is more based on what Jerome Tang did with less than what Scott did with more. And that's why I have questions about Scott Drew's in-game coaching.
So how long does it take? How long does it take for Scott Drew to recover from losing Jerome Tang? Because I really believe you saw the loss of Tang last season, especially defensively.
And how much of what K-State did on the defensive side of the floor did you say? Is it the Leonardo DiCaprio watching the movie pointing? That's what we watched, like it just is. So I don't know. I'm not here saying Scott Drew is a bad coach. I'm not here saying that Baylor's in the depths and from an X's and O's perspective, because I don't believe that. And I still think there's great guys around him like Coach Brooks and Coach Jacobs and Coach P. But were there times where we had some head scratching plays? Sure. Yeah. Were those players just taking ownership because Scott Drew, we know, gave the guards freedom because of the talent? Maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Baylor. Oh, you ready for this statement? Baylor men's basketball does not win a national championship in 2021 without Jerome Tang. Somebody just threw their phone out of their car.
Well, I mean, that person should go back and get it because it's a fact.
Please go get your phone and keep listening to the show because, ready for this? Baylor men's basketball does not win a national championship in 2021 without Davion Mitchell. They're not the exact same, but they're very similar statements. You take out a key cog from something, and it obviously is not going to work the same or be the same. Yeah. So I truly believe the recovery process now, it's okay. Can Scott Drew coach with Jerome Tang? Yes, we've proven that. Without Jerome Tang, I do think it's different than losing Grant McCaslin and Paul Mills. There have been great.
We're now going to be coming for our neck in the Big 12.
Yeah. Like now you got to deal with Jerome Tang and like we're getting dangerously close to. We are a fourth of the Big 12 when Texas OU leave, being Baylor coaches. Scary,
which is
man.
Great, which is great and speaks to Scott Drew's greatness and his coaching tree. That's great. I'm not saying it's not, but I want and I need to see in-game adjustments because we haven't. If anything, we saw in-game regressions. Look at Kansas on the road.
Yeah. So now what?
But to be positive, we're going to see guys come to Baylor between now and May 11th. We're not going to have this roster
two
gap.
Freaking weeks left, and there are at least 5 roster spots.
Yeah. So I have a list.
Good.
Of guys I would like to see.
Okay.
Headlined.
Tassos Comateros?
Yeah. No, I heard that guy is going to be good.
Dusan Marhorchich?
Keshad Johnson from San Diego State is who I want.
Okay.
That is who I want.
That's like Big wish list.
It's my Moby Dick.
Yeah. All right.
Big wing.
That's your entire list
guy from San Diego State. That's my list. If we get him, it'll be a success. It doesn't matter who else comes. If we get him, it's a success.
Would you say he's an above average basketball player?
I would. He played below average in the national championship, but as a whole, he's an above average basketball player.
Playing UConn.
Or maybe Caleb Lohner takes a big step.
Caleb Lohner does play basketball.
He is on the roster.
I have seen him play basketball before.
Dude, yeah. I think he might. I honestly do. I feel like one full off season, he was playing out of position at BYU. I think we just don't know, man. We just don't know what's the offseason discussions have been, but there's reason for concern. You can pull reasons for optimism. This has not been a very optimistic discussion.
Yeah.
I think the tone is completely different if Jalen Bridges comes back.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a lot of unknown right now. And I think that's what makes this so hard, is because we've lived in such a stable environment within Baylor men's basketball. Coaching continuity, player continuity, lack of one and dones. I think that's why we are ready to hit the panic button, because this is such a new feeling. Oh,
yeah, this is a comparatively panic for anything that we've seen in the last 5 years, at least for Baylor men's basketball. This is panic of that span. I'm looking right now at 24/7. Dang Doot from Southern Utah, 0-star prospect on the table. Marcel McCreary, Air Force, 0-star prospect is on the table.
Are you just looking at like the crystal ball thing?
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking at the guys who transferred in the last 4 or 5 days and find it. Yeah. Dusan Mahorcic, as I mentioned, from NC State, circle him. And then Tesos Kamateros. Just want to let you know that those guys will not be mentioned on any other podcast in America this week. And that's why you come to Locked On Baylor.
Thanks.
Dang Doot from Southern Utah University. Dang Doot, man. It's not good right now what has happened to us if you are Baylor Bears. But it is Scott Drew. I will agree. It is Scott Drew. And in Scott we trust. I'm on the Scott Drew train. I think he can do it.
I believe a lot in Mac Rhodes too. I think that dude hates losing. And I really do. So I think it's like a whole athletic department system, but right now
it's going to take a lot of the right fit from the transfer portal. And I don't mind if it's like 3 D2 guys, like 1 NAIA, 2 D2s, and a couple of dudes from, if it's Dang Doot from Southern Utah, well then bring it on.
I'm out of curiosity, why are you ruling out guys that have been in the portal for longer that have not yet decided?
Just because there's usually murmurs by now. I mean, people saw Caleb Lohner at Revival Eastside Eatery with Scott Drew a week before he committed, I feel like you and I are connected. We would have heard something about a massive prospect, the Hunter Dickinsons of the world that are still out there. We would have heard something, or that said players love to do this, would have come out and said, hey, I have, narrowed it down to 4 schools and Baylor's one of them.
Yeah.
We're closing in on the twilight of transfer portal for basketball. So if there haven't been murmurs already for these elite big players, Baylor then is behind the punch. And I don't see how you're beating out other big programs that got there first.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just curious. And for the record, I haven't heard anything. So
I haven't either. And that's what's weird, man. Usually by now it's like, okay, sure. There's some wing from Long Island, and he's been there 3 years. He was, first team all whatever conference they're in. Sweet, bring it on. Maybe he's not the starter day one, but that at least that gives you some semblance of, okay, there are people on the roster. As of right now, they couldn't run 5-on-5 in practice. The people that are like, don't press the red button, they cannot run 5-on-5 with scholarship players in practice. What are they doing? I'm
gonna go walk on though. There's a very high demand for below average athletic 6'2" white guys that are 28, about to be 29.
They're going to have to create a dream team for the guys. They're going to have to create a dream team for the guys. Just 7 girls, 7 elite girls who come out and scrimmage the guys every day at this point.
I thought of another reason to be positive, Drake.
All right, hurry.
Most of the time. But I think Antoine Grimes will be really good.
Okay, I hope so. I'm Drake Toll. That's Brandon McKinnon. He's really good at